In this lesson, I'll show you how to graph a cotangent function. The question reads, graph y is equal to 0.5 cotangent at an angle of pi over 2x. The steps to doing this are shown below, and the first step says, find two consecutive asymptotes between 0 and pi. So what I'll do is take this part of my equation and write it as an inequality where 0 is less than pi over 2x and our angle is greater than pi. And we'll solve for x. To do this, I'll first try to get rid of pi over 2. So I'll multiply everything by 2. If I multiply everything by 2, I end up with 0, pi x, and 2 pi. And then I'll divide everything by pi. Dividing this by pi makes that 0. Dividing this by pi makes it x, and dividing this by pi makes it 2. So our consecutive asymptotes will be between 0 and 2. Take a look. This is our xy plane. We have an asymptote at x is equal to 0 and 1 when x is equal to 2. In step number 2, we have to identify the coordinates of the midway point. That's easy. You take 2 and subtract it from 0 and divide by 2. 2 minus 0 is equal to 2. Divided by 2, it's 1. So we have a midway point where its x-coordinate is equal to 1, x is equal to 1, and to find the y-coordinate, we substitute this back into our function. Since our calculator doesn't have cotangent, we need to use its identity. Remember that cotangent x is equal to 1 over tangent x. And tangent is equal to sine over cosine. So if I put sine over cosine here, I end up with cosine x over sine x. Obviously, we're not dealing with x, we're dealing with pi over 2x. So remember that. It's x, pi over 2, and this is pi over 2. Now I'll use my calculator, where I have cosine pi over 2 times 1. I don't need to write down times 1, I'll just leave it like this. Divided by sine pi over 2 gives us 0. Therefore, the y-coordinate is 1 and 0. That's the y-coordinate, 0. Step number 2 is accomplished. Now we move on to step 3, where we find the x-coordinates 1/4 and 3/4 from the start and stop. The start is 0, the stop is 2. So that means our cycle has a period of 2 radians. 2 radians, or simply 2 minus 0 is equal to 2. We divide this into quarters, 4. So we have 0.5, 1, and 1.5. To find the y-coordinate when it's at 0.5, we substitute 0.5 into this formula. And if we do that, we should end up with the positive amplitude of 0.5. Let me repeat that. If I substitute 0.5 into cosine pi over 2x over sine pi over 2x, I'll end up with 0.5. However, if I were to substitute 1.5 into here and here, I should end up with negative 0.5, essentially the amplitude but negative. So we'll have a point at 1.5 and negative 0.5. This means our wave should look like this. And there you have it. That is how to graph a cotangent function.